Hello, this is my Jodah the Unifier God Tribal deck. Legendary creatures you control get +X+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. And whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that spell without playing its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. I think that is basically Cascade. Also, look how awesome this artwork is, and it's shiny. This is the one deck that I do want to foil out. So I'm gonna do that. It's just gonna take time. Let's check out the deck. I did get all of the Theros gods when they were all together in one of the secret layers. So thankfully I have them all. Not just them, but I also got Clothis. This one came out after the original Theros. So I got all the gods. And this deck is just for fun. I don't expect to ever win with it, and I haven't yet. It's just, you know what, play all the gods and see what happens. I also have all the god weapons. The hammer, Perforos. Got a bow. Got a spear. Got a bident. Got a whip. As well as all the demigods. You got the Daxos. And we can't forget about their doggy. Everything so far has been legendary. And now to the little ramp that I do have. Relic of Legends. You can tap it to add mana of any color, and you can tap an untapped legendary creature you control to add mana of any color. So with all this, I can create all the mana that I want, in theory. Chromatic Ori. This lets me spend mana as though it were mana of any color, tap it for 5 colorless, and I can pay 5 and tap it to draw a card for each color among permanents I control. Altar of Pantheon. Altar of the Pantheon says, your devotion to each color and each combination of colors is increased by 1. You could also tap it at any color of any mana. If I control a god, a demigod, or a legendary card, legendary enchantment, I gain a life. Tome of the Guild Pack. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, draw a card. And you can tap it to add mana. Jukai Naturalist. This is one of the non-legendary cards that I have. But it's in here because all my gods are also enchantments. And this reduces the cost of enchantments by 1. Burgeoning. This is one of those cards that you think you're gonna get every opening hand. So it's in here because, you know, wishful thinking. Whenever an opponent plays a land, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Dryad of the... Hey. This guy is in here to play additional lands each turn. I forgot to mention that one of my win conditions is Maze's End. So all the gate lands are in here. So Dryad is in here to help play more lands. I can play an additional land on each of my turns. And lands I control are every basic land type in addition to their other types. Soul Ring, because of Soul Ring. Timeless Lotus. It enters tapped, but it adds all the colors at once. The Great Henge, another legendary artifact. It lets me add 2 green mana, gain 2 life, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under my control, put a +1/+1 counter on it and draw a card. Hero's Podium, another legendary artifact. Each legendary creature you control gets +1/+1 for each legendary creature you control. And I can pay X, tap it, look at the top X cards of my library. I can reveal a legendary card from among them, put it into my hand, and then put the rest in the bottom. Reality Chip, legendary artifact creature. You can look at the top card of your library at any time. As long as it's attached to a creature, I can play lands and cast spells from the top of my library. And then it also has Reconfigure for 2 in a blue. This legendary sorcery lets me take an extra turn after this one. Urza's Ruinous Blast, it's a legendary sorcery. Exile all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. Another legendary sorcery that lets me do legendary stuff. And here's a legendary board wipe. Next we have some legendary card draw. Sit this. Whenever I cast an enchantment spell, I gain a life and draw a card. So whenever I play a god, draw a card, gain a life. Rhystic Study, because Rhystic Study is awesome, and it lets me draw a bunch of cards. Another legendary sorcery, because it's a legendary sorcery, lets me steal creatures or planeswalkers from my opponent's graveyard, or any graveyard really, and it lets me destroy up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. Vandal Blast to destroy artifacts I don't control. Avoid Fate to protect my... I wanted some counters that weren't just regular basic counters. Again, this is just a fun deck. So I found Avoid Fate to counter target instant or aura spell that targets a permanent you control for 1 green. Counter spell to counter a spell for 2 blue. Dovin's Veto to counter a spell for blue and a white. Assassin's Trophy to destroy a target permanent and opponent controls. Pyroblast to counter a blue spell or destroy a blue permanent. Cyclonic Rift to board wipe. Ruinous Ultimatum. It's another board wipe that only affects your opponents. Rebuff the Wicked. A white counter to protect your permanent. Swords of Plowshare to exile target creature. Blasphemous Act to board wipe. Counter Squell to counter and gain 2 life. Anguish Unmaking to exile target permanent, but you do lose 3 life. Shapeshift. This, in theory, helps with my Maze's End. And the lands. Of course, we need the World's Tree. It does enter tapped, and it only taps for green. But as long as you control 6 or more lands you control have a tap to add 1 mana of any color. And in the bottom, you can pay a bunch of land to sacrifice it and search your library for any number of gods. And then you just put them on the battlefield. Maze's End. And then I can pay 3, tap it, and then return this to my hand. Then search your library for a gate card, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. If you control 10 or more gates with different names, you win the game. And I have all the gates in here. But first, I have Field of the Dead, which lets me tap for a colorless mana, and whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under my control, if you control 7 or more lands with different names, creates a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So whenever, as long as I have 7 or more lands, every time I play a land, I create a zombie. And here are the gates. Rakdos Guild Gate, Demir Guild Gate, Boros Guild Gate, Golgari, Selesnya, Orzhov, Simic, Azorius, Izzet, Gruul, and the newer gates, Gateway Plaza, Cliff Gate, Citadel Gate, Boulders Gate, Sea Gate, Gond, is that how you pronounce that one? Heap, Thran, Manor, Basilisk, Black Dragon, and then we have some tri-lands and some basic lands. And yeah, that's my Jodah the Unifier God gate deck. Again, this is just a fun deck because the gods are awesome. Because the gods must be crazy.